are these people?
This is called Meatspeaker. Our greatest threats are lesser evils, joining hands to hold us back. Worried looks from heartless people, tearful words from soulless hacks, faux concern from thieves and rapists, thoughts and prayers from Epstein's friends, moral laws from fascist racists, healthcare laws from Cigna's pens. Bought and sold progressive leaders say we're starving much too loud, but all I see are meaty speakers talking down to hungry crowds. Squad and all their sleazy leeches feast on workers plump with clout, stalking through the tallest grassroots, track the unions, drag them down, reap their labor, eat their labor, none too proud to suck it out, none too shamed to freeze your wage, then beg for change like fund me now. Rush me $20 or our democracy will surely drown. Rush me $20 so we can cluster bomb 100 towns. Rush me $20 and once you've emptied out your bank account, you'll get to say you've made us proud and BlackRock gets to take your house. Just rows and rows of perfect clones of vacant homes, raised to bones, then carried off by corporate crows. Beneath a gaping sky where nothing lives and nothing grows, but hungry money swells and bloats, and money-hungry grifters gloat to fleece the coats and trust and votes of sheep and sacrificial goats. They coax their hopes like open throats where leeches feast on helpless hosts. The offer sees their beast invoked. The BlackRock altar belches smoke. It rises that the world may know they've christened 2 new CEOs, one for press and public show, and one that just the board will know, who wears a crown of migrants' hands and smiles when the cities flood, who's been anointed head to toe in workers' rights and children's blood, who bought the bill that soaked organic vegetables in fracking mud, who made his billions banking on technologies for tracking us, who filmed us every day as we kept smiling where the camera was and streaming from our cancer clusters, chatting up some Langley bugs, who take the time to listen when you think that no one gives a shit. Nice enough to help you sow your discord into stripper clips, lead you to an act that they have planned out like a business trip, show you where the buzzwords go when manifesting manuscripts. It's manufactured terrorism, crafted by precision tip, sanded past all recognition, ground beneath clandestine grit, carefully conducted by the feds in the orchestral pit, watched by millions, none the wiser, smiling wide, applauding it. So who yells fire in the theater when they don't smell the hint of smoke? What audience, enwrapped and eager, rises up as one to go and flees as from some gnarled reaper, leaves the actors there alone? Who would hear one frantic teacher, warnings blared through tears and foam, to rob yourselves of entertainment, leave your seats, but don't go home. The war outside is greater than these actors care to show. We have one night left before containment. Early dawn, they'll drop the dome. The streets tonight need all your anger. Playing now, the fall of Rome. That's Meatspeaker.
Who are these people?
This is called The Kings of Colony.
What you're following, that's idolatry, that's just fake. And all that wallowing that you tolerate, that's not fair. The kings of colony watched autonomy make our grave. The kings of colony know no policy, only rain. Now once you fall asleep, it won't bother you what they say. But the kings of colony, while they slaughter, they still complain. And we say, please color me, still too solemnly, still too plain. All hail economy, praise the pharmacy, seas in flame. They're buying up Hawaii, and the smoke's not even cleared. Those vultures smelled the fire and an enterprise appeared. Investment opportunities where melted down communities leave vacant space BlackRock has been lusting for years. The council meets in private, they don't discuss survivors. Concerns among construction groups are all Lahaina hears. They'll wander through your city with this mocking sort of pity next to Oprah and her camera crew who tore the Trail of Tears, where footage flows as freely as the stream of liquid steel and the pools of pure aluminum that trickle down your wheels. And Biden's come to say he knows exactly how it feels, cause he had a kitchen fire once and had to miss a meal. And people still believe that piece of shit deserves your vote. Like he's not why supplies are being smuggled in by boat. Like he's not why our citizens were forced to stay and roast. And he can't unfreeze your funding, folks, cause Azov needs it most. I'll bet my every dollar Biden watched it with a smile. I'll bet he knows the whereabouts of every missing child. He's just the kind of man who lives to trample something tribal, collecting culture's corpses just to throw them on the pile. Like he and all his buddies didn't dream about the day when those who dared defy the donor class are cleared away. When home insurance cripples and you can't afford to stay, and your land falls to the hands of those whose windfall fan the flames. The state will take Lahaina, they'll bastardize its name, and tourism will swarm it all the same. See, the state we left Lahaina shows the ground rules of the game. The planes that in the night ignite the planes. And if questions raised that reckon the potential use of lasers, I suggest you take a closer shave by way of Occam's razor. And if those civilians stood between this country and its gains, there's really nothing further to explain. Because you may know this already, but if you truly know our past, this ain't the first occasion and it will not be the last. When Americans are kettled in and made to bear the blast, barricaded in and left for ash. See how many in Lahaina now are lying there awake, and they still can hear the city we left leveled in our wake. They still hear all the people that we let the fire take, instructed by police to stay in place. So look to the horizon, cause a fire comes for you. Desire made incarnate of the power-hungry few who've instructed the police to not let anybody through, to barricade them in, and so they do. That's Kings of Colony.
Who are these people?
This is called Jesse Jett and the Return of the Cursed Medallion.
It's very much a Hardy Boys type of title to me.
Carved upon a marble altar, somewhere in a lab, are runes that match an amulet upon an onyx slab. Doctor in a white coat, guards in olive drab. Kissinger, unconscious, but as Providence would have, when the doctor stands beside him and he holds out the medallion, unconsciously, instinctively, he reaches up and grabs. Deep inside a Blacksite that is right beneath our streets, the sacrifice was made by which they demonized our speech. The roots that fed the tree of life decayed beneath our feet, and its sap was a suspension for a small medallion piece. As the doctor starts to sway a bit, he takes the vial and places it inside of Cheney's heart that it might never cease to beat. And I wish it wasn't so, but no, the final piece to mention is the one that fueled our overlord's unholiest ascension, that affords him zero comment on the char and the distension on the bodies in Lahaina, or the growing sickly stench of every BlackRock vulture gathered for what Biden paid as rent on the medallion shard they gave him on the eve of the convention. He'd seen its strength extend the life of all his favorite vermin, and the peace that he inherited had come from Father Thurmond, another artifact he had been gifted by the Germans to see one's will made manifest, one's destiny determined. A note attached read all our best, Werner, Fritz, and Hermann. May you marinate in Wehrmacht that ferments behind the curtains. Now here we are today, and Biden keeps it on his person, if Biden's what you'd even call a person. The curse is something ancient. It's a raw abortifacient that they shovel down the throats of those who built and birthed a nation. It is fused into those corpses, funding war on all occasions, and it's all that's keeping Feinstein from a state of vegetation. It is carried by the Senate doctors, whispered by the nurses. It's a perk to keep you perky for your centuries of service. It's the concentrated evil that's been powering our purges, coaxing every coup along, the dogs and drones and dirges. The nations we have raped because they would not consent to purchase. It pries our leaders' eyes awake and drives our country's urges to the darkest point where human hope and human truth converges. So look in Biden's eyes and see the rush on which he surges is the same that lit the flame that burned your churches. And those flames have had their day to see the vessels burned away, but the medallion unscathed always emerges. For as election season licks its lips and smells its purpose, there at once appears a motorcade of hearses. The calling of the pit like a liturgical insurgent skinning off a sermon from the verses. He clutches a medallion of which he is just a servant, falling down a path with no divergence. Now some people wonder loudly just how low a man can go. Well, somewhere in a lab they've logged effects of pure immersion. How long can someone lay upon that ancient onyx slab before rising up a wholly different person? How blackened can one be within the ink of human greed before their voters start to see a different version? How corrupted from within before you see it in their skin? How blighted till it rises to the surface? Till it bleeds into your eyes, or you stand from time to time staring off into the press like they were comets in the skies? How long until your arteries start clogging up with flies? How long till child labor phantoms haunt you in the night? How long has the medallion been deciding who survives? And how long till it demands a higher price? That's a wrap.
Who are these people?
Maybe that's how it goes. We won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know. We're the last ones alive. Kept our enemies close. Wondered why we don't thrive, while we're grasping at ghosts, counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Count back from 5. Theater's on fire. The cast's on strike. Studio starts taking a dive. Contracts tossed and it's gone with the tide. Heads and execs say our hands are tied. We can't pump this dreck and treat you right. But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? Who original thoughts never seem to find, so they'll reboot ALF before your wages rise. But it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times that they're losing control of their fools in their minds. When obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that'll strengthen the hand of the corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip. Till you're all up to date on your pharma du jour, you got a healthy support for the war on your lips, and you know that the advertisers need more than a rerun summer full of flashback clips. So enter the scans from the year before, all the days of de-aging and mapping the face, and the hours of actors recording their voices are links in the chains that will bind them in place. And all of these shows are so easy to make. With a drone you control that needs no break, it can bend, it can break, and it's cheaply replaced. And if up-to-date films all in one take, and the studios bank on us doing our duty, unhinging our jaws and digesting the fakes, 'cause they know that we'll love how synthetic it tastes. Watch as they edit your features without any trace. Not that there's anything you could do anyway. Watch as they show you a movie of you saying shit that you'd never say. And dystopia boldly accelerates. Maybe you're only a mold, something to fill with a clone, something that Elon would celebrate. Something they own, something they program and code, something that's woefully able to know its examinate. Cause it doesn't feel touch over top of the laminate. You will not feel an emotion, but they will not scan and examine it. You and the other consumer contaminants fed on the federal diet of Kiev, Havana, and Tiananmen. I cannot be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment. Where did you think we'd go? Love, there's nowhere to lie. I guess it's not who you know, more it's what you can hide. It's like we're chained to the floor, and they're streaming us live. We're all watching the war, counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. And that's backwards from 5. From the upcoming album, Live from the Blacksite. I'll burn the record, because the truth would have them hung. And the record will reflect that there were thousands of tongues screaming "Stop Cop City" at the top of their lungs, waiting for democracy that never comes. Now in war, you hear a chorus born of voices in defeat. In Georgia, there's a forest full of vibrant, healthy trees. And somewhere in a meeting room no camera ever sees, a council plans on bridging both extremes to build a city where no citizen will sleep. 'Cause every home's as vacant as the soul of every cop that walks its streets. They are empty, cold, and lifeless, like the heart of every officer patrolling on the beat, doling out the beat to all the homeless folks they meet. Another swine smiling while they wallow in your taxes, but they still insist their funding's incomplete. So we had better spend approximately double what we need to make the water safe in Flint so they can train somewhere in peace. Far removed from public view, disturbingly discreet. Somewhere they can breathe and learn the proper way to place a knee. Away from prying eyes and witnesses so quick to scream and start a hurried stream. I guess our heaps of billions wrenched away from education still can't supplement their needs. Well, that's breaking news to me. I was under the impression every city in this country was a playground for police, a space for them to train to be the worst that they could be until they're free of any conscience when they meet us in the streets. I thought that they used Akron as the Stasi soft release. I thought they gave New York a budget big enough to fill the sea. I thought the training ground for the driveway drive-by existed at Los Angeles PD. I think it might be far too late for us to see Atlanta's just a single seed. One they seek to plant in every space that's quiet, safe, and green. They want a grove in every city, one whose harvest picks us clean. And the fruit that forms like tumors on the branches it conceives will curdle every healthy humor should you trust enough to eat. So believe the morbid rumors you hear echo on the breeze, for the forest had its hands up and was calmly on its knees. And I bet they'll burn the record, for the record will concede that Tortuguita had their hands up when the fusillade released, that constituent opinion does not sway you in the least when you're an agent of the fascist beast. And if any cop is listening, then memorize this part. You are more a waste of public space than noble beating heart. You will never be as brave as those you've snuffed out in the dark. You will only leave a stain. You will not make a lasting mark. And the same for every council chair who heard their city speak, who were asked to represent the ones who chose them all to lead, and who opt for more Gestapo because they're frightened and they're weak. Well, you cannot claim democracy, then sleep on free speech like the whisper of a forest creek.
You cannot block dissent like it was all some awful dream. Any more than you'd endeavor to remove the children's screams from a damning piece of evidence that we don't need police, and we would gladly trade them each for trees. So I bet they'll burn the record, that our kids will never know how they designed a fascist paradise and vowed to make it so. And death hung in the air one night to consecrate their land with the consummate oppressor's hand. And now, shining in a line, a medal waits for every man in a city where no human stands. Just the guardians of capital with killer's union drip, blood badge on their uniform and bravery on their hip. No humanity to speak of, no compassion on their lips, just Atlanta under full eclipse. And so I bet they'll burn the record, lest the truth would see them hung, for the record will reflect that there were thousands of tongues crying "Stop Cop City" at the top of their lungs. But democracy would never come. That's Blood Badge.
I feel like you should just throw the mic up against the wall on that one, too.
No
Who are these people?
This is called Pull String. Her hands are bound behind her candidate, who found the perfect hill on which to lay it down for good, who she might not agree with on apartheid or celebrating war crimes, but talks just like she could. He's got the IDF's back and the CIA's back like a Democrat should. Mr. Anti-Establishment didn't start the fire, but he's slipping on his hood. Her voice is grafted to a candidate who might not always speak for her, but what is she to say? Why bother harping on an issue that Americans won't listen to? It seems like such a waste. But what activism is saying they don't give a shit, but if I don't, why would they? So way to rob yourself of agency, then chain yourself to genocide and look the other way. I love to see a fella running Democrat, taking stacks of money from a GOP super PAC, calling out corruption in the giant fucking country club he's clearly been accepted at, but wants to be the leader of. He knows which way the money runs, knows it paves a leader's path. And human rights for Palestine historically don't lead to that, so he will not address it as he doesn't see a need for that. And welcome to the attitude our country's politicians have displayed toward Palestinians since back before they cracked the will of Arafat. And so the story goes forever after. We do not speak the P word here or recognize the NABCA. All you'll find are sea lions who volunteered as actors, barking like a manuscript from NAFTA. All you'll find are insulated sycophants intent on justifying why the slaughter done in Palestine is not a voting matter. Tell that to Shireen Abu Akleh. Tell that to the children growing up inside a city where the walls are made of shackles. Tell that to a mother who is burying her baby, how her son is not our problem because we'll never see his grave. He's just a topic we can mute, or we can scroll right past his face and all the videos of mourners being beaten at his wake. So stuff your poll on what the average voter sees as urgent. They don't get to know the half of what we use as our detergent when we launder all our ISIS cells, our cartels, and insurgents. We do not elect the man behind the curtain. We elect the pull string diversion. We elect the lesser evil donors pre-selected best to do unto the Arabs as we did unto the Persians, and do unto the Muslims as instructed by the merchant who provided you with HIMARS that can vaporize a person back into the dust in which we all will find immersion. One arms dealer's Jenin is another dealer's curse on, and both are just a mark that Lockheed Martin smells a purse on, and voters are the hollow thralls that Congress put a curse on, to vote against their interests every 4 years till they die. And if you show them Palestine, cry better them than I. Though the curse of occupation's taking place within their mind, they will always love their prison long as they are shown the sky. They will sing about their freedoms under Apple's watchful eye as puppets dance and sing should you so pull their strings and wires. They will rally around a man who bears a torch and bears it high and believe him when he tells them that he's here to stop the fire. We are cursed to love our prison and keep lifting up our liars. We are not behind the wheel, we're being crushed beneath the tires, and our blood is in the oil and the plastic on the wipers, and our blood is on the hands of those who cranked inflation higher. And blood is on a vest where press can barely be deciphered, put there by a few Israeli snipers who were aiming at the center mass of truth about American desires. You can sell us any story. We're a nation built of buyers. And we love a good parade. It always makes us feel inspired, like who cares that those were Nazis? Gosh, they had the whitest smiles. So I wouldn't bank on sequels to the Nuremberg trials. If they happen now, they would be confidential, Pfizer style. Redacted paragraphs and empty vials. Close to 80 years before they have to share their files. Luckily, your lesser evil logic lets you justify the nations we've defiled. Lesser evil logic lets you cast a vote for someone that you know is truly vile. Lesser evil logic sees another million bodies thrown upon its hoarder's pile, extending out for miles. So every line I've had to scrap, I turned back into bile. So don't you touch that dial, lest the feds come swarm your door. Guess it isn't safe to say things like I don't support the war, or may Palestine know freedom from the Jordan to its shores, or I'd love to see our senators get trampled by the poor. Any pull-string Dem will tell what they're allowed to stand up for, and how little things like Palestine are better off ignored. Call it voter outreach for desperate remoras when the shark from which they get their scrap starts polling on the floor. And the shark says those who live beneath a brutal occupation should be thankful for their freedoms and their rubble and their gore. And I swear it only makes those bottom feeders love him more. One in particular is beaming for her candidate who found the perfect hill on which to make his final stand. And she will not be deterred by all those pesky little war crimes, will not be deterred by his support for stolen land. He helps her come to terms with how to spin an occupation, forgiving the oppressor is the democratic way. She says her voice is grafted to the candidate who speaks for her. And every time you pull her string, she's nothing new to say. RFK 24. This is called Better. Radio station just censored the word devil. Clearly, we are on a different level. I guess you wouldn't notice all the rolling boulders crashing past your shoulders when you're taught to shift your focus lower, scream at all the pebbles, cheering on the bombers because you can't abide the rebels. But I bet you'll wring your bloody hands when all the dust is settled, when the last little limb is pulled from Gaza's twisted metal. Then you can say how you were led astray, and never once in all your days would you have knowingly supported all the genocide for which you clapped and prayed, but they baited you with unconfirmed blurbs about babies until you were filled with rage. Yet someone told you babies had been starving, bombed, and caged for nearly 60 years in Gaza, and you looked the other way. So regret, but make it fashion. Go and pluck the final petal off a hyacinth on Instagram for every kid they kettled. Every son that Israel imprisoned when they're little, that they tortured for a decade, then surprised with their acquittal. And when they got released and saw their parents and whatever siblings hadn't met the missiles, they stared right through their middle. Their eyes don't seem to focus, and their words are all but dribble, like they're pondering the darkest riddle. That is, how many false flags does it take to make humanity inhuman and uncivil, distorted by the revel? The crooked slant where Israel contorts into America, Biden bathing Bibi in a bloodbath in the bevel. I opened up my feed, and I saw children disassembled. Turned some music on and heard the station censor devil. Imagine thinking Doja Cat's a threat to moral fabric in the single largest terror cell that ever felled a temple, that ever sparked a cleansing, that ever burned a market, that ever raped with bayonets or carpet-bombed apartments, that ever turned your water off and left you in the darkness, left you doing surgery on children while they're conscious. You sing the devil's praises every time you sing our anthem. You sing a hymn to him that watched us birth a million phantoms. You'll proudly wave his flag, and yet you will not name the devil. Well, clearly, we are on a different level. I can give you names, shit, I'll give you several. They say the devil wears a different face for every general, like a composite of the char we brought to fields of emerald, and the wail of every childhood we made ephemeral. So who else has left the stain of blood on everything they touch? Who else can starve civilians and they don't so much as blush? Who else has paid for Gaza being flattened into dust? If there's ever been a devil on this earth, then it is us. That's U.S. What an ugly couple letters. Feeding shit and ignorance to those it chose to tether. From the river to the sea, both are slowly growing redder, for the devil that you know just knows you better. It knows every gut reaction it could ever make you feel. It knows fear is that which wakes you up and gets you on your wheel. It knows just the kind of story that will justify its war, and the scripts are wrapped for World War IV. So just imagine my surprise to give the radio a listen and to hear such pious morals out of Zionists and Christians that they'd take the devil's name and try to clip it from existence while they carry out his bloody business. You would wave a fascist flag, and yet you honor not your Iblis? Name you not Apollyon? Hush you now your witness? Bleed the name of Belial till tongue is rolling listless in the man-made mouth of Mammon as Lemia's whisper listens. When carts are wheeling bodies through the cities that we crushed, and the very air is rotten with decay of all that was, who else would censor devil yet behave as Legion does? If there's ever been a devil on this earth, then it is us. US, but not a unity of souls. More a mass of corporations turning houses into holes, turning people into puppets, turning puppets into mold, turning mold into nutrition bars worth their weight in gold because they're bombing every bakery and burning every field with phosphorus that never once has wanted for a meal. The devil wears a mask and it delights in the reveal, in that moment where the face is let to peel. We do not love the underdog. We do not cheer the rebels. We lust for all their blood until the dust has finally settled, then pity just ourselves that we were so misled to revel. Proudly wave his flag, and yet we will not name the devil.
Who are these people?
Okay, yeah, this is the Dust of Better Days. SWAT team took your neighbor today. Watched them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. But is it too late for us to ever change? We're collecting the dust of better days. They're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape, not meant to wake. The sheriff stopped your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once we're collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to feel safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wait. The feds arrived and had you detained. Said you'd made
made some posts they want changed. Tased you till you felt like you'd forgotten your name, or life before they had you contained, or life before they had you contained, oh, life before they had you contained. SWAT team took your neighbor today.
And that's a dust of better days.
Who are these people?
Welcome to the future. Shit where you please. The Wi-Fi's killer, but there's no more bees, so there's hardly any flowers. There are very few trees, and you'll pay $1,000 for some honey for your tea. But we got these awesome collars. Mine's an Apple Model 3. It allows for better movement than the Tesla X Elite. It lets you customize the ads that it implants in every dream, and for premium subscribers doesn't shock you in your sleep. But it doesn't stop there. It can analyze your speech, and if it hears disinformation, then it notifies police. It's a swift re-education, but it knocks you off your feet like your booster every 7th week. You see, I face the future boldly with 2 eager open eyes, and I picked a couple nuggets up that blew my fucking mind, like you can taxidermy someone while they're technically alive, and they'll shine when it's election time. Because the voter... Because your Democratic voter base will pay them zero, and never mind if voting for that scarecrow is a vote along their party line. They could stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kit supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It still spends all its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moments till the MiGs arrive. So fucking ask Zelensky if he'll help replace your leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske show, stacks of bills in every size. God, I guess it only took a black sun and a couple hiles. Honorary goose step in some Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed till they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which sort of flies right in the face of all this network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals. You see, I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose pull is something tidal, who would starve us all to death to best delight their blighted idol. So they might destroy the record, and I will never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final.
Apple Model 3 slave collar.
these people?
I got Buying the Theft locked and loaded.
All right, let's do that.
Land of the free, and you'll know us by the trail of dead. It's just one more world war to complete the set. When you live by the pike, you die by the booth. You die wide-eyed, still pleading the fifth, or crying divine epithets in pathetic attempts at defense. All empathetic for those on your side of the fence. Well, I'll gladly put you and your legacy into an alternate tense of faltering senses and altered events. Like hunted ain't a hearse, it's a reaper stretch. Oh, how sweet, she said. Bunch of hordes in the street like it's Evil Dead. Where the thin blue line meets razor's edge. Where the corporate ladder ascends to a steel-toed boot that awaits on the ledge. You'll be licking it fresh at your boss's request till it stops each finger and watches you fall to your death and drown in an ocean of debt. Gone with the fodder who gathered to honor the patient left, who purity tested themselves into sections step by step till the next election. It's just one them and the sound of their well-read theorized breath. Now that's harm reduction for the lowly cost of you holding your nose and just openly buying the theft. Maybe it's all in the flick of the pen. Maybe we're all one unmarked van from a trip to the pen. Being guarded by pigs who exist on a diet of dying breaths of much worthier men. Honey, heaven's expecting you. Just don't get too hung up on who they let in. Just look up at the shine on the pearly gates. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the paint. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the water, lead in the milk, lead in the honey, lead in the caustic embrace of the Heavenly Father. Lead is the flavor of passive perpetual slaughter. Lead is the taste of us led to the ledge by the lure of the legend of expert consensus, and then beckon to stretch it just one step farther. And now I hope all the folks who were boastfully gloating and toasting themselves as the heroes of COVID, boosting their boosters and doing their part, are now equally thrilled to be starstruck martyrs. All laid in a government grave with anonymous markers, like you're back from the carvers and off to the splicers. You're the very first wave to be slain in the war against Pfizer, in the 100 years war against Pfizer. See, they're thinning the crowd that is striking right now to bleed adequate pay from those inhuman misers who all sit in their office and designate coffins to people regarded as nothing but profit for Kaiser. So the Dems want you nicer. The Dems want you softer. Dems want you kinder. Yeah, they all want you graciously starving in silence. You will speak when you're spoken to. Rest of the time, you and all of us peasants are merely depressing statistics neglected in Congress's binder. All blood, bone, dry, then fed to the grinder. And our headstones line each step as reminders. It's a lesson in object permanence learned in the furnace by workers consigned to the fire. Workers bled, bone, dry, then fed by the fed to the grinder. Fed by the fed to the grinder. See, the fed went straight to your head. They mind what you hide and your signs unsaid. Your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You'll let it inside. You'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself. Then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. See, the fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your sighs unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag by red, so you let it in bed. You'll let it inside. You'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Now the fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your sighs unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag by the red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Now the fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your sighs unsaid, Your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you'll let it in bed. You'll see that it's fine, you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Now here's where our leaders would see us all end. Here's where our leaders would see us all end. Oh, here's where our leaders would see us all end. Here's where our leaders would see us all end.
And that's Buying the Theft. Just because I love the album, Everyone Who Disagrees with You is an Extremist. This is Depop Culture.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days and still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to save. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days and still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to save. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? You safe. Fresh off the mass is the brand new cancerous growth, who has come here to vie for your vote, who has come here to cry at the camps and to mourn at the shore for the bodies that float by the wreck of an immigrant boat. Then it's back to their luxury home, couple security booths and a moat, couple cigars, little escargot, little booze and a soak. God, just breathe in the steam and the smoke. The pink salt lavender candles are low. Shit, when you do what you do, gotta lighten the load. He got a life of his own, it's a sight to behold. And it's a lot to control, to decipher the code or to siphon the soul. You see, the cost of a good night's sleep for the working elite is a bargain, no matter the toll. It's worth any wager, and that comes straight from the mouth of the means to the goal that will swallow us whole. It's ripe for the picking if you don't mind mold, and you know I don't. Maybe we're pleasantly prone, maybe we're taking a licking, compliantly ticking and ticking and ticking, but never explode. Now I don't deliver the prettiest image, but damn if it isn't an accurate vision, a natural fission of rage at the system and abject heartbreak, patiently waiting for any who'll listen. Cause that little blue bird who is watching your words is a federal carrier pigeon, a Langley first. It's a patient observer who hears what it wants and is trained for the worst. Oh, you got nothing to hide. They'll be the ones to decide that after they root through your purse, after they read all your texts, after they raid your apartment and confiscate all of its contents, conjure up evidence out of the air on a wing and a prayer and malicious intelligence nonsense. With any presumption of innocence long since gone, right along with your comforts and constants. Now, historically, first they will come for the communists.
So why in the fuck would I say I'm a communist? Well, it might be I love my community more than the monsters of opulence who are holding us hostage, who are vomiting promises. Might be I'm all done seeing our pensions and benefits harvested. Might be I'm all done watching the populace being disarmed in the guise of an armistice. Watching a woman collapse on the floor who will rise no more. She is wheeled out the door and you're next in line for the pharmacist. Shit, if you could get me to vote, it's a hard no confidence. But part of the charm of deception is politics wearing the mask of incompetence. It's all in the order of austerity, darling. It's all in the slide of the providence. Till home is as wide as your cubicle height and it's only as deep as your coffin is. Maybe I'm miles away from impatience, aching to break off the head of the snake where the capital lust, reptile brain, and the margin of profit is. Like off with his. Like off with his. I guess this isn't such an awful place. Never what you want me to say. You prove it's possible to sleep for days and to still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to save. When they told you everything was safe, you say.
Who are these people?
I got a little treat.
I'm not going anywhere.
Some Randy Newman for that ass.
Ooh! You got a friend in me.
Red moon rising on the Cuyahoga River, rolling into Cleveland to the lake. There's a red moon rising on the Cuyahoga River, rolling into Cleveland to the lake. Now there's an oil barge winding on the Cuyahoga River, rolling into Cleveland to the lake. Cleveland, city of light, city of magic. Cleveland, city of light, you're calling me. Cleveland, even now I can remember, 'cause the Cuyahoga River goes smoking through my dreams. So burn on, big river, burn on. Oh, burn on, big river, burn on. Well, the Lord can make you tumble. Yeah, the Lord can make you turn. God can make you overflow. The Lord can make you burn. So burn on, big river, burn on.